Today I want to talk about basically depression, sadness, hopelessness, and the reasons we have them. Especially as INFJs, we kind of know that our life is full of these. It seems this is one of the things that we have a lot of bouts with through our life, through the course of our lives. And this is universal, especially with the INFJs. It's not strictly an INFJ condition. Everybody is subject to these things that happen. But we also live in a society that tells us that our solutions are always just, they can be bought, they can be paid for, they can be easily solved by just jumping into the arms of somebody. They can be easily solved by just more money in the bank account, more trips, more vacations, more things in our life will fill us if we just have material things. Or even the sense of depression, even like more medication. Just take pills and take drugs to deaden the dopamines in our brain in order just to take the pains away. There should be no discomfort in your life. There should be no pain. You should always be happy, always have some kind of fulfillment. See, this is the type of society that we typically live in that just tells us that there are just quick, easy solutions. And it's all about just things that you can grab, things that you will put into your senses in order to fulfill them. Well, people, these are the complete wrong answers. These will never fill you. These will never, ever give you any sense of completion, ever. You have to find this completion within yourself, people. That is where it has to come from. Oh, this is Tom, and this is the INFJ experience. Okay? So, yes, we have a lot of these reasons as to why we're unhappy. I'm going to cover some of these. I already went through some of them. A lot of times, like, what are some of the causes for INFJs especially that we talk about that bothers us through our life? Number one, sometimes unresolved past traumas. Okay, a lot of times we've had a hard childhood. We've had things that happened to us in our childhood. Maybe there was neglect, abuse, being violated, things that happened to us. Maybe we were bullied, picked on. We were always not good enough, didn't feel good enough, had nobody to turn to. A lot of these things are part of what we turned into. These are what made us into introverted people type, because we had nowhere to turn, nowhere to run to. A lot of times we turned inward. We looked within ourselves because that's where we had to look. Yes, these are some of the telltale signs of why NFJs became who they were, why introverts turned inward. But a lot of times we look inward, we don't reach out, we keep it in, but a lot of times we're not resolving it. We're just kind of in ourselves, always going through bouts of depression, off and on through our lives. Maybe we get burned out, we get tired out, we get exhausted from our life, from people around us, so then we turn inward again. But it's a cycle that never seems to stop. We never resolve it. We just kind of temporarily heal ourselves, get out of it, only to have it creep back up in our life. So, of course, thinking that friends and relationships are the answer. Of course, I mean, everybody thinks that, just talking to people, having friends. Now, listen, people, above all, we are human beings. We're INFJs. We are here to help each other. We are here to enlighten each other. This is part of our duty as INFJs. Now, not everybody is your friend. A lot of people will just steer you down the pleasure road, tell you have to go down this road in order to attain your happiness. Like I said, the pleasures, the relationships, as I had mentioned before. But these are not necessarily the things. These are sensory objects. These are things that will never fill you. They will only make you want more. Like I said, it's like an unquenchable thirst. The more you want, the more you reach down. You reach for something that is not the true completion. Like I said, I've used this analogy before. The more you reach for things that are not totally filling, the more it's like drinking oil. You just need more and more of that. You need more money. You need to go on more vacations. You need to do more things in order to fill yourself, because you're reaching for the sensory. You're not killing anything. You're not taking it away. You're just using sensories in order to fill you. And these are never quite the answers. And now the next thing is typically our therapists, our psychologists, the ones that are appointed, the ones that we turn to. therapists that say, okay, they have the answers. Relationship therapists, just therapists in general. Now, typically, they're going to pretty much tell you that, yeah, you need more friends. They're going to tell you that a lot of the times they're going to steer you into these pleasure things. Tell you things, well, you need to feel good about yourself. You should never be in any kind of pain. You see, they want to tell you that this is what it is. Pain is never tolerated. Pain and having any kind of internal vapidness in your heart is always wrong. It's always just something we should run from, cover up, hide from. So a lot of times, like I said, what's your escape? It's into the sensory, or it's even into medications. It's into putting into the dopamine. It's into changing your chemicals in your brain, getting the neurons in your brain to alter them different, make them fire different, recreate a reality in order just to basically trick you into thinking you're happy when you're really not, when you're just putting chemicals into your body. This is society. This is how society teaches us how to handle our pain, how to handle our depressions. And these are masks. They're just covering up symptoms. In fact, when it's all said and done, when it's all worn off, they can't function without the therapist. These therapists have a full-time job, and therapists are meant to be temporary. They get you on the right path. They talk to you. They set you on a course, and you're supposed to take it over for yourself. You're supposed to take this information and move on with your life. But a lot of times these therapists keep you in a constant loop, constantly just needing them, constantly just basically keeping them employed. And meanwhile, you're not getting any better. You just need the therapist. Your therapist became your antidote, basically, because that's what it is. But you never turned within yourself to resolve it. Okay, now people, I'm going to tell you the truth. Basically, these are some of the ways society teaches us how to handle our stress, how to cope with our stresses. But there's always the truth. Now, as INFJs, being that this is our experience, a lot of times I think we instinctively have figured these things out. A lot of times we know that because sometimes we are internal, we are introverted, and we think internally. And a lot of times we turn inward. That's just naturally where we go. We're not the extroverted types that most people are geared for. That's the extroverted stimulation, and that's where they turn, is extrovertedly. We're usually turning inward for our information, always looking in. But now, how does the INFJ find happiness? How do we, as INFJs, being that we are very depressed through our life, and a lot of times we're down on ourselves a lot. And sometimes I talk to some of you on this channel, and sometimes I feel it. I feel as though we still have our bouts. We still have our depression, our emptinesses, our sadnesses in our life. Listen, I'm not perfect. I'm just Tom. I mean, I've found things in my life to complete me. I've found certain things. I've gone through certain spiritual awakenings in my life. But there's times I still have incompletions. So yes, I'm still searching. I think we all are. We're each other's kind of innocent friend here. All right? But bottom line is a lot of times what happens is finding fulfilling hobbies in nature. I mean, a lot of times, as INFJs, what fulfills us personally? A lot of times, it's self-realization, self-reflection inward. A lot of times, if we have unresolved issues in our childhood, if they are these unresolved traumas, whatever that might be, a lot of times along the way in our life, we do have to face them. A lot of times it's all about how our mind handles these things. It's not in how we just forget them. We want to forget them, but not just by trying to, like in the old days, literally forgetting about something. I steered into this. Back, they had a practice that went on right up until about the 1980s with psychology. They would do shock treatments. How barbaric is this? They would take shock treatments and they would just put electrodes on the brain. And they would just shock the brain. They would just put electrodes in there, hoping that these brain cells were just fried. Whatever memories you had that you were repressing, whatever things that were in the back of your mind that you were holding, would somehow just be burned out of you. that all these negative memories would just burn out. And what it was basically doing, it was frying the brain. It was just driving you crazy. It would just make these people ultimately were just being like zombies. I mean, because it was killing the brain. But this is their way of trying to treat it. Of course, at this point, they went into almost like chemical type of shock treatments with all these drugs that they had prescribed through the years as well. So yeah, these are barbaric, archaic type of solutions that just seem to be absurd to me as far as I'm concerned. But that's what goes on. But bottom line is, I got a little steered off the point there, people. As INFJs, we need to find basically our own self-reflection. We need to ask questions within ourselves. Sometimes it's just a matter of facing things. And a lot of times, a lot of it is about letting the pain be there. Letting these sufferings be there. Okay? Some of the more fulfilling things you can do, people, is just being one with nature. Sometimes just going out, having a breath of fresh air. This is therapy for me. It always has been. Of course, solitude, and of course, we're introverts. We like to spend a lot of time alone. We tend to reflect inward alone. And a lot of people don't want to be alone. A lot of people say they could never be alone. That's the cause of their happiness, is the fact. But we're opposite. We need this as our therapy. So a lot of times, this is not a cure, people. Just going into nature does not cure you. It does not just say, okay, you're all cured, you better now, but it will put you in a state of mind. It'll at least calm you down so you can reflect inward. So your mind is clearer, so you'll be able to at least reflect inward. All right? Things like that. Number two, excuse me, people. Number 2 is a sense of duty and purpose. Now, people, this is something that I've learned recently. This YouTube channel has given me a sense of purpose. Finding an outlet where you are helping. This is another thing. I mean, a lot of times we need a sense of duty, a sense of purpose. As who we are, our character, our personality makeup is typically we like to have a sense of purpose in that way. Assisting people, knowing that we make a difference in people's lives. And maybe just the world in general. So a lot of times, just me talking. To me, knowing that you're out there, knowing that we have a community here, we have this safe haven, and just knowing that somehow I have a way of venting here is giving me a sense of purpose. So this actually helps me. Now, I'm not saying everybody go get a YouTube channel. I'm not saying that. If you may not be geared for that. I'm just saying, for me personally, this helped me. And this does help me, just doing this right now. Because it would only help me to know that I knew that I steered somebody in the right way. Maybe they listened to what I said and said, okay, this would help. That's all we can really do. Okay? But you need a sense of purpose. Volunteering would be good. Maybe just assisting more. And a lot of times, that's a bit of sense of fulfillment. It's just knowing that you're doing good deeds. You're doing right things for people. Because that's things we need to do as well. All right? It doesn't take it all away. You still need to find the core of what's causing your depressions. But bottom line is, these are some things that help. All right? And some suffering is necessary for reflecting and growing. A lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want accountability. They just want to sit there. They want to blame everything, say, everybody made them this way. This is what happened. So it's not their fault that they are the way they are. They never want to self-reflect. And they just want to find ways of, just like I said, masking things through stimulation, through outer stimulation. This is the way the world teaches us on how to handle things. People, that's why nothing ever resolves. And that's why people are getting more and more crazy. That's why this world has gotten more and more insane every day. Because these are the practices that typically go on. Now, people, some suffering is necessary. Okay? Now, let's go back to the animal nature. Now, what is the stress of the prey animal? Let's just take the rabbit. Now, personally, people, they work at night. Sometimes I'm driving in some of the cities, and even in some of the big cities, some of these cities have rabbits. There's wild rabbits. Now, their instinct immediately is to fight or flight. They are a runner. They could be safely in a patch of grass, okay, next to where I'm driving, and all of a sudden the headlights hit these rabbits, and what do? They run. They run when they'd be perfectly fine just staying in the grass, in the protection of the grass, but they run. But that's their stress. This is their programmed predisposition in order to have a stress. But they have to be aware. Their stress is always knowing that they have predators that are out to eat them. They have hawks, they have owls that will pounce on them. So that immediately when they feel frightened, they run. And this is their fight or flight. Now, human beings, we have a certain fight or flight as well. All right, a lot of times it can be our stresses are usually our traumas, are usually our unresolved handlings, the way we handle things, how we handle people. A lot of times we harbor hatred in our heart, judgments in our hearts, usually. And when we harbor certain things, the way we judge, the way we handled a certain situation with anger, or when we repress something, a lot of times these are our stresses that continue to make us depressed because we didn't handle them. We didn't face them. We didn't take these stresses, what we harbored in our hearts, and we never faced them. And we only intensified them. We were told that it's okay to hate. It's okay to blame people. It's okay to point to them and say, they made me who I am. But no, your reaction to them is what actually made you depressed because you didn't handle it in the first place. So a lot of times these are our stresses. Just as that rabbit, just as that animal needs a self-defense, maybe a camouflage or whatever it might be in order to defend, but they have the constant stress of knowing that they have to protect themselves. So as humans, we may not have things trying to eat us, but we have the outer world trying to consume us in such a way, mentally, in other ways like that. Okay, but basically what I was getting at is it is necessary. Sometimes we have to feel it a little bit and know that because we are going through depression, a lot of times these might be the pains in our life that are trying to heal us, that are trying to let us see what we are depressed about. So we have to face these things. Now, understanding that, yes, depression can be debilitating. Now, people end their lives because of this. People may take their own lives because of depression. In fact, it's common. So it is a serious thing, and I'm not saying we have to be depressed in order to find that. We have to know that there's a happy medium, that there's a certain level of pain that we have to face in order to find the cause of who we are and what we are. We can't keep running from our pain, as society tells us, bottom line. There is a certain level we have to face. And it does build our strength and our character. As I said, same thing. Back to the animal kingdom. Animals are built because they have to run, because they have to fight for their survival. It's making them sharper. It's making them faster. It's actually making their bodies faster and quicker and their reflexes better. But they're on a sensing level. Animals are not human beings, but animals were deeper. We're a spiritual animal. We are spiritual deeper. So ours is more of a more complex system in order to deal with our stresses. And a lot of these are exactly like I said. But not just running from them like that. Our stresses have to do with the fact that we have to grow from them. And the growth a lot of times is facing the pain within ourselves to an extent, okay? Now, people, yeah, that's what it is. So ultimately, people, yes, finding ultimate happiness is within you, okay? That's basically what it is, people. Nobody can actually make you happy. A lot of times, like I said, you can't just find your perfect mate. Can't rely, you find a girlfriend, woman finds a boyfriend, get married. These are not solutions. Now, when people are complete within their hearts, when they found that's when they're ready for their relationships, their ultimate relationships, things like that. But through our life, it's because we're not filled properly. That's what it is. Or we think that a lot of times when we are depressed, it's like I said, again, it's unresolved feelings that we keep letting just bubble up. letting them keep resenting them. Resenting basically means that we resense what we're going through over and over again, and causing these depressions over and over because they weren't resolved. That's what resent means, is they are resenting. So a lot of times that's what it is. So ultimately happiness is within you. Now, being that we're introverts people, we're always dealing with our own selves. We're always having to deal with a lot of our own mind. And a lot of times our own mind becomes our own biggest villain. Is we do this to ourselves. A lot of times we sit here torturing ourselves. We blame ourselves. Now, as INFJs, typically, and I've done this a lot of times through my life, we're constantly criticizing ourselves. That's one thing. Sometimes I had a video a couple months ago. It's kind of an obscure video about how our own mind is what we have to overcome. Because a lot of times our own mind is our biggest enemy. And we tell ourselves we're not good enough. We tell ourselves we're depressed. We didn't do this good enough. We didn't do this good enough 10 years ago when we were children. We should have been better. Maybe our parents would have liked us better if we were better. So a lot of times we cut ourselves down constantly. That's one of our flaws, is that we are our own biggest critics. And a lot of times we listen to these things, and we let our own mind be our own judge, in a sense. We judge ourselves. And this is what we do. Now, people, we got to understand that. You have to see this for what it is. You have to actually see yourself judging yourself. You have to stop doing that. A lot of times when you get aware, when we meditate, when we sit quiet, when we sit still, and of course I talked about the Trinity of consciousness, okay? A lot of times our mind and our memories just keep going and they recirculate, and of course it clouds the soul, it clouds the judgment. Okay, I think I've said that in a video, the point as well. But yes, but also meditation, we have to somehow sit still. Being quiet, ultimately being quiet in your soul, and practicing just sitting still and being quiet, being centered, letting that soul just have that center, and getting out of the cloud and the swirl of our mind, somehow separating our thoughts, separating our mind, our swirling thoughts from our stillness. Because a lot of times it's our mind that keeps circulating, that we believe, that we just kind of keep going into. Somehow you have to separate it where these thoughts keep going on. And then during meditation, we're able to just not listen to them. We know they're going to be there, and we got to start ignoring these things. And eventually they'll start going away. All these mental weights that we put on ourselves have to be just ignored in a way. But it does take practice. A lot of this takes practice. All right? But so that's what it is. We really need to separate our thoughts, and we need to meditate in order to find ourselves and find out. And so ultimately a relationship with our spirit is what's going to help us, people. Now, that may be easy said. Our spirit is God. Okay, you know I'm a spiritual man. Ultimately, we have to be one with our Creator. I mean, have a true relationship. And of course, being at peace in our mind, being at peace in our heart, it's going to take a little bit of sacrifice. It does take a little bit of, pain in our life. And that's, like I said, there is some of that has to be faced. But ultimately, people, a lot of it is self-reflection. It's just looking in and just admitting that some of the things that we made, some of the mistakes, I mean, we can't blame people. We can't just say, okay, it was their fault for doing it, but it was your fault for reacting the way you did in what they did to you. Your reaction is what made it wrong. I know it's easier said than done, but a lot of times just we have to make sure that we stop blaming. We stop putting the blame on who did what they did, and just understand that we just have to resolve this. We have to forget this. That's bottom line. And a lot of time it's just all about in our mind. It may seem like a daunting task, people, but ultimately it's just down to calming the mind. It's really calming the mind and just being content. Without medication, without drugs, without relying on people, stimulation. Because like I said, all these things are just masks, and society's been doing that, and it doesn't resolve anything. Okay, Well, anyway, people, I thought I'd have another one on that. Okay, I think a lot of people we need self-awareness. We need self-help, and a lot of times, listen. I mean, as a community, as this channel, as it is, we need to know that we matter. Ultimately, people, you need to know you have some kind of, you matter. You are important in this world, not just on a superficial way, but you really do. All right, so have a sense of purpose. Have a sense of purpose and you need to face yourself. That's all we can do, really. Gosh, I hope something I said touched you. I hope something that I said will help you out. But ultimately, too, people, you also need to make sure you don't burn yourselves out. Let me get back to that as well. Okay, if you put yourself out there too much, and when we get exhausted, I've said this in the past as well, overextending ourselves, especially as introverts, will make us drain. And we don't want to keep playing catch up. We don't want to keep catching up to ourselves every time. When we get overly drained, we get tired and exhausted, and then we can never we end up getting into that pit, and we can't get the exhaustion out. We have to know our limits. I've said that as well too. Know your limits on how much extroversion, how much time you can spend with people before you need your alone time, before you need your lake, before you need your walk, before you need that wonderful garden out there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Before we need those gazebos out there, we need to at least make sure that we're getting our rest as well. Because again, like somebody had told me before, you can't pour from an empty cup. You need to fill your own cup first. You need to be fulfilled in your own heart before you can pour out to others, basically. Okay? Okay. Well, people, this is just a pep talk. Thank you again. I think I'm going to wrap it up at that point, but I hope this helped out a little bit. Now, people, yeah, thank you for attending. And if anybody's new to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. All right? And leave me some thumbs up. Leave some comments. Let me know you like this kind of content, okay? And if you do, the algorithm on YouTube will keep making this content and keep kind of showing it to more people out there as well. All right? So, people, I hope you find yourself. Yeah. I hope something I said resonates with you. Okay? Well, thank you so much again. All right? And until the next time, have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day.